Hello and welcome to the Lyman Lipke Guitarcast, Q&A edition. I am your host, Lyman Lipke, and I have something to tell you guys. Just getting straight into the daily anecdote, the story that I start the podcast with. I was driving late at night on Saturday night, looking for something to listen to. And I thought, let's listen to the podcast. Let's listen to my own podcast. See if I really do come up with good information to give you guys. And the information is good. However, I almost drove off the road because it put me to sleep. So we're going to put some more energy into this podcast. Or at least try to. Because if it puts me to sleep, it's probably going to put y'all to sleep. And good information that you can't access because it's boring is hardly good information at all. So that is my story. I almost put myself to sleep and almost drove off the road. So, I've got some questions. I've been slacking on a few of them. So I've missed a few questions, and so we're just going to play Catchup today. Coco Collab asks, how can the 6 diminished scale be used in practice? That's a good question. So, little refresher, 6 diminished scale. Literally a 6 chord and a diminished chord, and then all the inversions of those chords. We have them on the different string sets. So this chord has the same pitches as this chord, but the fingerings are different. Different string set. And this is the tricky string set. And really, it's kind of the least useful out of the string sets because this, especially down here, has a tendency to get a little bit muddy. So when I give out the document that has all the 6 diminished scales on them, I tell everybody that is the lowest priority set to work on out of all of them. And these are all drop 2s. We've also got drop 3s, which are the same as drop 2s, just on the high string set, just move the high E to the low E. And that's our low set of drop 3s. We also have our higher set of drop 3s. If we take this higher set and move the high E string down to the low E string, we get drop 2 and 4s. And then we've got the high set of drop 2 and 4s as well. So, if I can count properly, 12 drop 2s, 8 drop 3s, 8 drop 2 and 4s. That's 28 different ways to play the chord A minor 7. It's a lot of different chords. And each one of those chords, there's a note on top. So this is A minor 7 with the 7th on top. You could also play this drop 2 and 4, get the same chord. We can also play this drop 3, have the same note on top. So, what I have discovered is if I take a drop 3 and then play the next chord in the sequence, so 6 chord or minor 7 chord here, diminished chord, the voices move in contrary, the top and the bottom voice. So C6, C on bottom, G on top, B diminished, E on bottom, G sharp on top, or A flat. And it works with the drop 2 as well. So D on bottom, F on top as a drop 2, drop 3, drop 2 and 4. And if I double the bass note on the high E string of a drop 2 and 4, the voices are still moving in contrary. And then some partial chords. And I have complete contrary motion, and it's systematic. And I can actually go further on the 7th string by playing this drop 3. But on the 7th string, which would be this note, and then I have this as well. So from this note, I can expand out to chords this wide. It's a higher interval than I can count. But even just one at a time. So this is useful for, how can we use this in practice? Chord melody. Chord melody. Let's take one of my favorite tunes, Fly Me to the Moon. You can play this drop 2 and just follow the melody. The chord changes here, so we need to address that. So this is all over A minor 7. And then the next bar, it's D minor 7. Where's the melody note? It's the 3rd. So playing this D minor 7, I can play the notes from the F6 diminished scale. Same thing with this G7. We have dominant 7th diminished scales. I can play C6, C major 7, F6, F major 7. I like that chord. We take that contrary motion idea. That'd be the correct chord. This chord is probably not exactly possible, because so I could play, instead of G7, rootless G9. So moving from 6th diminished scale to 6th diminished scale based on the corresponding chord, like whatever chord we're playing for over, is the practical application. solo. Etc., etc. It gives you all sorts of ideas that you can harmonize a single note melody with. Because that's what we're doing with chord melody. We're harmonizing a single note melody. We're improvising. A lot of times we're playing single note melodies. So we're just harmonizing something that we're making up in real time. So let's get to how we can get here. Being able to play through a 6 diminished scale and then move to another 6 diminished scale through like 5-1 motion. So this is B flat 6 diminished to E flat 6 diminished to A flat 6 diminished. Just going up and down on one string set is fine to start. Then we can come up with games like every 2 chords. We will change to the next, like every 2 6 chords. We'll change to the next 6 diminished scale. Start adding too many flats, like I get a little bit confused. That's not something I've practiced a whole lot. I mean a lot of where I put this stuff into work is using the 6 diminished scale as like sort of a harmonization device over tunes, like a tune with a melody that I really like how can I use the 6 diminished scale to play some of those, scale your lines. Great tune, almost like being in love. And I didn't use a lot of 6 diminished motion there. However, all of those chords that I played came from chords that I learned practicing the 6 diminished scale. So even if you don't do anything with it, and there are things to do, and you can absolutely do those things. But even if you don't do anything with it, you're going to learn a whole bunch of chords. Also, there's the borrowing concept. So check this out. In the alto voice, cool, back in tune. In the alto voice, we're going to raise this note 1 degree. And that gives us a very common chord, C major 7. But we're going to do that for every single one of the chords in the 6 diminished scale. Raise the alto voice 1 scale degree. That's a cool scale of chords. C major 7, D minor 7, E minor 11, E over F, F over G or G9 sus, G over A flat, A minor major 7, B minor 7 flat 5, C major 7. You could remember all of those, or you could think of it as just the 6 diminished scale borrowing in the alto voice. You can treat those borrowed notes as suspensions. As just one direction, one voice, one string set. Like, I mean, we can do that with all of the string sets, all of the voices. So this is borrowing bottom drop 3 soprano voice. That's a weird chord. That's a standard chord. It's a D minor 6. There's our C major 7. F minor 6. And I don't think I've ever played that set before, but because I've practiced the 6 diminished scale so many times, I was able to figure that out in a reasonable amount of time. And this is a chord I'll use all the time. Think of it as like G13, the flat 9 in the bass, but again, it's just a diminished chord. I think that gave you enough sort of reasons why to practice the 6 diminished scale. You're going to learn lots of chords, you're going to be able to harmonize things, and do the borrowing. So if that's still not good enough of a why, then I don't know what to tell you. Next question. How to understand how notes relate to each other. So this is something I've been thinking about a lot. The whole ear training thing. Everybody's got their secret, like, ear training course. And I didn't take any ear training course. I listened to things and tried to find them on my instrument. And I've been trying to reverse engineer back from that. Like, how do you start that? So, even before intervals or anything like that, because how do notes relate to each other? Intervallically. That's the answer to the question. But here's a question with more meat. You've got to be able to tell me if this is the note. Is the note I added higher or lower? Is the note I added higher or lower? Is the note I added higher or lower? And you might think that that's probably an easy thing to do. Like, oh yeah, everybody knows how to do that. I want to run some tests. I want to get actual data on if somebody can hear something's higher or lower. If you can't hear that, then how are you going to measure the distance, which is what an interval is? So maybe I'll create some random pitch sets, and then you make a determination like higher or lower, like answer key. So higher, lower, higher, 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 lower, lower, higher, higher, lower. Something like that. That I think for my future ear training students, that's going to be a prerequisite. You have to be able to do that with like 100% accuracy. I usually never say like 100% accuracy, but if you cannot do that, then we're in a little bit of trouble. But I believe it's a skill that can be practiced if you don't have it. And I imagine 95% of the people listening, so all 19 of you can tell the difference between a note that's higher and a note that's lower. Once you have that, then you need to be able to hear the difference between two notes. Like, what is that? How many half steps is that? How many whole steps is that? 2 half steps, 1 whole step. How many half steps is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 half steps? 2 whole steps plus 1 half step. You need to be able to hear that. You need to be able to hear this distance. From both directions. So if this is the first note, the second note, how many, like, I don't think of that in steps anymore. And I think of them intervallically. So this is a minor 6. And the interval, the number in an interval has to do with the spacing of letters. So C to D is a second. Doesn't matter if it's C flat, D sharp. I don't know any time that's I've seen that in the wild. C flat, D sharp. What interval is that? It's a second of some sort. It's a double augmented second. Because it has to do with the letters. C double flat, D double sharp. That's still a second. C double flat, D double sharp. Has to do with the letters. So, second, CE, third, CF, fourth, CG, fifth, CA, sixth, CB, seventh, CC, octave. So those are the numberings of the intervals. C, C, 1, unison, C-D, 2, C-E, 3, C-F, 4, C-G, 5, C-A, 6, C-B, 7. Use your fingers to count. But the, lower note, or the note we start on, we could be going either direction. That is 1. Like, don't go D. That's a first. No, it's not. Gotta count this as 1. So, I've got a little hack for major and minor intervals. So let's take the C major scale. 2 octaves. And the C in the middle. Every interval that we have against C is going to be major or perfect. So, fourths, fifths, octaves, and unisons can be perfect. And perfect intervals invert to other perfect intervals. Seconds, thirds, sixths, and sevenths, as well as, you add 7 to those. Those can all be major or minor. So, C and D, that's a second. We're ascending away from C, major second. Major third, fourth, that's one of the perfect intervals. Fifth, sixth, seventh, octave. Perfect fifth, major sixth, major seventh, octave. That's all against the tonic. Going away, ascending. Major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, major seventh, perfect octave. So, the converse is also true. If I'm going away from C, descending, it's still a second, but it's a minor second. Minor third. Fourth, still perfect. Fifth, still perfect. Sixth, minor sixth. Minor seventh, perfect octave. So, major and perfect, minor and perfect. And how I said perfect intervals invert into other perfect intervals. Let's look at the concept of 9. So, the C is always going to stay right here. This is a perfect fourth. If I drop this note down an octave, we've inverted the interval. So, the rule of 9, whatever this interval is, subtract that from 9. And that'll give you this, which is 5. This is a fifth. Perfect fifth. Same shape as this, but same letters as this. Perfect fifth. Drop this down an octave. Perfect fourth. So perfect intervals invert to other perfect intervals. Major intervals invert to minor intervals. Minor intervals invert to major intervals. So, this is a second. Drop this down an octave. Subtract 2 from 9. Seventh. This is a major second. Inverts to minor seventh. Major third inverts to minor sixth. We did the fourth and fifth. Major sixth inverts to minor third. Major seventh inverts to minor second. So, major 7, minor second, major second, minor seventh. Those are the intervals. And it's all about the distance between letters and between the notes. You can count it in half steps, but I'd much rather see you relate it to the major scale, because it's just another way we can use the major scale. So that's how to play it, see it, and understand it. The next step is being able to hear it. Like, can you identify this as a major third, perfect fifth, major seventh? I would say that is step 2. After you can identify if something's lower or higher, major second, minor third, perfect fifth, major third. That's an interval we didn't touch on. The tritone, which is either an augmented fourth or a perfect fifth. They make the same, or not perfect fifth, diminished fifth. Augmented fourth, diminished fifth. You might be thinking, they make the same sound, so what's the distinction? Letters. The number has to do with letters. F is 1. G, A, B. F, G, A, B. That's some sort of fourth. So, augmented fourth. And this brings us to our other rule of 9. Augmented intervals invert to diminished intervals, and diminished intervals invert to augmented intervals. So, rule of 9, this is an augmented fourth. Subtract 4 from 9. This is a fifth of some sort. Diminished fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. C, B, D, E, F. Augmented fourth, diminished fifth. And you invert them. The distance is actually the exact same. The distance of frequency. It's tritone. And I will not, nickel and dime you too hard on the, getting the augmented fourth or the perfect or the diminished fifth correct. As long as you can identify a tritone. So being able to hear the intervals is good for being able to recognize like melodies. So against the tonic, we can think of that as going down a minor second, down a whole step, down a whole step. Both of those are major seconds. Or you can think of it against a tonic chord. Playing tonic, major seventh, major sixth, perfect fifth, perfect fourth. You can also think of it against the chord. Minor third, major second, root, minor seventh, minor third against the chord. Different ways to attack it and like think about it. But really, being able to hear something played on your instrument and then have some sort of method of measuring what it is and what the distance is, you're probably fine for single notes. And the whole like hearing an interval perfect fifth. Like we also have to be able to hear those things within like the context of a chord. So got a perfect fifth here, major third, perfect fourth. But it's C major 7. So this is like a major third, but we add 7 because there's an octave in between. So this is a major 10th, major 6th here, major 7th here, still major 3rd here. So there are all sorts of intervals within this chord. Being able to pick out one or two with a reasonable degree of accuracy will help you be able to figure out like chords that are within the ballpark. That's how notes sort of relate to each other. That and like there's theory, but no need to get into that here. What's the main difference about playing in each key? On the guitar, as long as we're not doing open strings, not much. Like, I can play in the key of G major. I can take that same fingering, move it up a perfect fifth, and now I'm playing in D major. Many years ago, keys might have sounded a little bit different because of true temperament. However, when we moved to 12-tone equal temperament, like if I play a D and a G and then pitched that up in software, it would sound exactly like this. Like pitched it up a minor third. If I was in the key of, did I say D and G? I meant D and A. If I was in, like, say, the key of E flat, in true temperament, the D and the A that existed in that key, if I pitched it up a minor third, it would not sound like the second and the sixth of the key of E flat. It would be slightly different, I believe. But because of 12-tone equal temperament, like, most keys are the same, I would argue. If you have a good argument against that, I'm happy to hear it. Lay it out logically and, with kindness. And I'm extra happy to hear it. You're going to be a dick about it and, empirical evidence and not explain yourself, like, then go suck one, as far as I'm concerned. But I'm pretty sure, like, it's all the same. And on the guitar, like, we have fingerings that move, like, linearly. It's not like a saxophone, where they play in G major and then A flat major. They have to learn a completely different fingering. We don't have to do that. So that ends up leading a lot of guitar players, I feel like, into a shortcut. It's like, oh, I don't have to learn all 12 keys. Like, I know this scale, I can move it everywhere, and I'm in any key. However, if this is the only fingering you know for G major, and you do something like this, you're lost. You're completely lost. You don't have your fingering memorized when you're playing in G in this spot of the neck. But I do. So you should too. So rather than, I think, starting on the guitar, playing through all 12 keys, learn all of the fingerings in C. You can use Jimmy Bruno's 5-fingering method, which resembles the caged system. But don't tell him you heard that from me. Or you can use my 3-note per string method. Jimmy Bruno says, like, if the moment you put a space between a finger and a fret, like, that's when things get screwed up. He said that, like, colorfully, more colorfully than I would here. But I'm gonna make an exception for myself. I came up on the upright bass, so these are my fingers in the low position. 1, 2, 4. 3 and 4 act as a unit together. There's a big old space between 1 and 2. So it's something that doesn't feel foreign to me at all. Like, that feels very comfortable from playing the upright bass for so long and playing electric bass for so long. But that is a thing that one of my heroes says. So 3 notes per string. Like, you can learn all the fingerings in that system. Once you have all the fingerings down, then you can start moving them through the cycle of keys. So C major, F major, B flat major, E flat major, A flat major, D flat major, G flat major, B major, E major, A major, D major, G major, C major. Those are all of the 12 different key sounds. You can do that. How I recommend doing that is from the same starting note. So that's key of C starting on F, key of F starting on F, key of B flat starting on F, key of E flat starting on F, key of A flat starting on F, key of D flat starting on F, key of G flat starting on F. And in my positioning system, those are positions 4, 1, 5, which are our 3 major type positions. And then 2, 6, 3, 7 are 4 minor type positions. That works out to a phone number. 4152637. Please don't call that. I don't know where it goes. I will obtain that phone number one day. But that's an easy way to remember what the order of the positions you can play. Position 4, position 1, position 5, position 2, position 6, position 3, position 7. And when I'm in position 7, if I'm playing higher up on the fingerboard, I can lower my first finger a fret and repeat that sequence. 4, 1, 5, 2, 6, 3, 7, 4, 1, 5, etc. For like forever and ever. So that's sort of like how we can navigate keys on the guitar, because you should be comfortable in any key in any spot of the neck. Like there should be no man's lands. And I look at this area of the guitar as sort of no man's land. The D, G, and B from the 6th to the 11th fret. Which sucks, because this is such a good range on the guitar. It's like where the guitar really wants to sing. So, getting your fingerings in no man's land will be very helpful. So that's sort of the difference between playing through the keys. What's the most important thing to memorize if you want to improve? Honestly, all of that. The fingerings for the 7 positions, the key sequence of keys, the spelling of those keys, how many sharps or flats they have, also good theory stuff to memorize. The spelling of intervals, which works for any major scale. So, say I'm in the key of, pick a tough one, G flat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1. This has to be a letter G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Those have to be the letters. It happens to be G flat, A flat, B flat, C flat, D flat, E flat, F, natural, G flat. All of the letters have flats except for F. So G flat and A flat, major second. G flat and B flat, major third. G flat and C flat, perfect fourth. This looks like G flat and B. It's not a perfect fourth, theoretically. G flat and B would be an augmented third. Has to do with the letters. So memorizing that is good. But here's the most important piece of advice I could give anybody. I saw a YouTube video about this yesterday. The thing that's holding you back from improving on the guitar is repetition. Doing the same thing over and over again until you can play it with no mistakes, and then doing the same thing over and over again until you can play it in your sleep. There are a lot of players who don't get to anything that they could play in their sleep. Maybe a lick or two. But fingering like that, the fourth position in the key of C, you should be able to play that at least 10 times in a row without making a mistake. If you can do it while talking, then you really know that thing in your sleep. My brain is so divided right now. I'm playing the scale position. I've lost count. I don't know if that was 10, but I could keep going with that forever. Like, how much are you willing to practice that? You have to practice it until it's complete. You can play it with no mistakes, consistently. And then do that with literally everything. And there are a lot of overlapping concepts. Like, how many licks contain a 2 or 3 note sequence that existed in that position? Since I've practiced this within this position, I know that I can play that. So it becomes like, if we practice our foundational skills and our fundamentals, those help us when learning things that are more difficult, because we already have some of those moves internalized. We just have to put them together. So when I say at the end of my videos to practice, like, we all want to play stuff that's more difficult. We're all aiming forward. Please, please, please make sure that you don't neglect your fundamentals. And I've posted a couple fundamental videos recently, and there's this one dude who's saying, yeah, I got that. If I were to encounter that, like, not in a paid lesson, but like a free, like, lesson, like an introductory lesson, and that'll be something for you people that have listened to this far in the podcast. Code word, DM me on Instagram, code word, pickup testing guitar with a saw. That's what I've got going on in the workshop. Pickup testing guitar with a saw. I'll give you a free intro lesson. But because I do this more often in free intro lessons, if you say you've got, like, oh yeah, I've got all the fingerings. I play thirds, triads, diatonic, seventh chords, whatever. What's next? I'm going to test you. And I'm not going to test you unkindly, but I'm definitely going to, try to apply some pressure. Like, okay, show me. Now. 16th notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. If you make a mistake, like, because whenever we're performing, we're never going to be as relaxed as like we are in our own homes practicing. So we have to be used to doing these things under pressure. And like when I call it red light syndrome. So many of my students like as soon like I asked them to do things that I know that they can do. Things that I've seen them do before. But because I'm asking them, and they're on a Zoom call with me, they get nervous and start making mistakes. It's red light syndrome. As soon as, like, try to record something. As soon as the red light turns on, like, you have forgotten how to play your instrument. So, when you're practicing, you can create yourself some higher leverage situations. I've talked about this before. So, if you claim that you have all of this stuff down, like, I'm going to make you show me in a higher leverage situation. I'm going to make you show me quick. If you can't do that, like, practice more. You can't do that enough. Like, if you ever make a mistake doing that, then you could probably practice it some more. Circumstances, notwithstanding. Like, somebody throws a cupcake at your head. If you make a mistake while playing through that scale, you got a cupcake chucked at you, you're probably fine. So, repetition. It sucks for a lot of people. I don't know, I've always liked repetitive acts. Because I can watch YouTube while I'm doing this. Like, I can listen to podcasts. I can do other things. Like, I got this thing here. I can practice one-handed. Now I have a completely free hand to do other things with. What can I do with those other things? What other things can I do? I don't know. Like, I could use a screwdriver, probably. Get some sanding done. Play games on my phone. That's probably the most likely thing I'll do. Find a way to make the repetition bearable. And that will be the thing that truly takes you to the next level. Just practice. The same thing over and over again. I've got a question about the pentatonic scale. Ben asks, I'm working on incorporating the modes into the major and minor pentatonic scales. Like adding the sixth into the minor pentatonic gives the scale a very Dorian sound. What interval would you incorporate into the major and minor pentatonic scales to give the sounds of the modes if you can only pick one? This is very, very simple for the first 6 modes. That's A minor pentatonic. That's our A Dorian. Hexatonic, maybe. Because I'm going to assume you're adding the scale, not changing, or adding a note to the scale, not changing a note in the scale. All of the major and minor modes, except Locrian, have a relative. So, just like Aeolian is relative to Ionian, Dorian is relative to Lydian. So this is the C Lydian pentatonic scale. And I'll loop up a quick, just one chord. We're not gonna play the modes of C. We're going to play C modes. So like C Dorian, C Phrygian, C Aeolian, and such. So I'm just gonna play a C major chord. that's our C Lydian sound. So only other major mode, because or let's do C Ionian. Find that F makes it truly Ionian. So let's play that against the C chord. That's our C Ionian hexatonic, we'll call it. Mixolydian has a flat seventh in it, so C Mixolydian be C major with a flatted seventh. So C Mixolydian hexatonic, we call it, we just add the B flat. Keep the rest of the pentatonic scale the same. Easy. So, Dorian is relative to, or Lydian is relative to Dorian. Aeolian is relative to Ionian. So that Ionian pentatonic scale Ionian pentatonic is relative to Aeolian pentatonic. And Mixolydian pentatonic is relative to Phrygian pentatonic. To get Locrian pentatonic, I would probably play Phrygian pentatonic with but lowering the third. So I'd have to change two things. Add a note, change a note. That's not against C, that's against A minor. Or, yeah, A minor against A. Let's play all of those new pentatonics over A minor. Dorian pentatonic, hexatonic. Ionian pentatonic. Hexatonic. Phrygian hexatonic. So yeah, like, it's not as complex, I think, as, you know, doing something for each of the 7 modes. Like, just do them for either the major or the minor modes, and then you got relatives. Granted, I think all of that is sort of, I don't want to say a waste of time, but maybe like a waste of resources. Like, use the chromatic scale. Like, you can use all of the notes. varying, degrees of, like, outness. And like, there are systems there that I use. But, like, if I hear if I'm hearing, like, oh, I want to play that natural sixth right now, nothing's going to stop me from that. Like, most of the notes are available all of the time, and all of the notes are available some of the time. So, and I was having a conversation with a student about this yesterday. We've been talking about the blues and, like, this section of the blues, bar 7 and 8. So from bar 5, 6, wait, 6, 7, 8. We're trying to figure out, like, what scales to use over those two chords. And I thought that using those, like, thinking of scales, like, yeah, I mean, like, we could use G melodic minor to B flat melodic minor, and then D melodic minor. So those scales. But rather than that, like, what is the movement? What is happening here? It's a minor 2/5. That's not the only thing you'll ever see in that part of the blues. Like, I've seen this happen after F and F sharp diminished. It's one thing that could happen. I've also seen this. Also seen this. All of those are turnarounds to 2. So rather than thinking, what scales do I play over these chords that happen in this specific chart of the blues, you need to identify the movement and then think, what do I do over a turnaround to 2? So I'll loop up a quick turnaround to 2. Just one of them, but I'm going to treat them as if they're different turnarounds to 2. All right, that one, 2, 3, 4. So I wasn't thinking about those specific changes. However, I could have. I was just thinking the things that I do over turnaround to 2. So, figuring out things to play over certain moves, certain movements, I think a little bit more valuable than thinking about what scale works over what chord. But if you're using it as a composition tool, like these hexatonic modes, I think like you could do some cool things with that. And somebody wrote me today, Coco Collab. The more the more I learn, the more I have to unlearn or question things I was taught at music college. I was led to believe that a sharp 11 wasn't an available tension on a 1 chord. Or is this a 2-5 to the 4 chord? Are we really in G? And so, the example, like I was just playing a 2-5-1 and building a cantus firmus, a given melody around these chords as a point of improvisation. And on the 1 chord, I hit the sharp 11. And so like that could be our cantus firmus. So building a line around that. I mean, any major chord. I can play the sharp 11 sometimes. You know, I'm not gonna always want to do that. So, are we really in G if we're playing that F sharp? The answer to this question is the same answer that I give to many questions. It depends. Context dependent. We could be like, this would be the G major scale, which incorporates the sharp 11 over a C sound. As far as I'm concerned, whatever chord sounds like home, sounds and looks like home, after all the context has been viewed, that is home. So, the only context we have here, D minor 7, G7, that's usually a 2-5, C major 7. 5 chords like to resolve to 1. So, this is a 1 chord. So, this is the key of C, I would say. You can make... Again, you justify it, make an argument for whatever you want. If you're nice about it, I will take a listen. Anything besides C, I think is needless overcomplication. There's not much information here, so Occam's razor, simplest answer. Dominant chord moving to a major chord with 5-1 motion, make the major chord the 1 chord. And that's far more consonant than this. Like, I will just hit a big F when the C happens and hit a big F sharp when the C happens next time. See, now that doesn't get in the way of too much stuff. This F creates a flat 9 with the 3rd, which is the character note of C major. That's a gross interval. F sharp creates a major 9 with that. And we're fine with intervals of major 9ths. It's a little bit of a misnomer, but D minor 9 contains a major 9th interval in it. And that sounds real pleasing. I think that sound is an acquired taste. And can't be used all the time. Should be used sparingly. But anytime I see a major chord, if the proper context is there, like it's a very resolved major chord, I can play Lydian sound over it. Consequently, like say I'm still in the key of C, but I have a 2-5 to the 4 chord. I can play that B flat. I can also play B natural, because that comes from the key. I think that the sharp 11 is absolutely usable over a 1 chord. And if somebody tells you that you can't do that, well, again, the answer is it depends. Does that person sign your paychecks? If the answer is yes, then probably don't do that thing. Protect yourself, protect your paper. If that guy's a snot-nosed punk kid, like, tell him to go pound rocks and eat sand. Like, do whatever you want. Just be, nice about it. That'll get you more gigs than, knowing the exact theory of everything. But knowing theory is good. Like, it's never going to hurt you. All right. That's all I've got for today. Appreciate you. Again, if you made it to the end, there's that code word. I think it's around 48 minutes. Go back, listen to that. And first, since my listener base is pretty small, like first 10 who DM me on Instagram with the code word get a free half-hour lesson from me. So go forth, have fun, and I'll see you on Monday. Bye.